Leora was born into a world without colors. Her planet was quiet, covered in stone skies and silver forests. The rivers shone like liquid glass and the mountains looked like tall gray walls reaching for the heavens. To her people, this was normal. They lived, worked, and dreamed in shades of gray. But Leora was different. She often sat alone on the cold rocks, staring at the horizon. Why do the old songs speak of fire that glows, of skies that burn, of oceans that shine like gems? She whispered to herself. The elders always warned her not to ask such questions. Colors were lies. Colors were dangerous. That was what they taught every child. Still, she could not stop wondering. Her mother told her bedtime tales of a time long ago, when their kind saw things differently. But every story ended in the same warning. Colors bring war. Colors bring pain. That is why we erased them. Leora nodded when her mother spoke, but deep inside she did not believe it. How could something so strange and beautiful be only a curse? One night, while the silver moons hung low, a fire streaked across the sky. The villagers cried out, pointing at the glowing trail that burned above the clouds. A visitor is coming, the elders said in worried voices. A human. Leora had never seen a human before. She heard stories, tall creatures of flesh and bone with strange eyes that could see things her people could not. Some said humans were dangerous. Others whispered they were dreamers. But no one trusted them. When the ship landed, the ground shook. Dust rose in gray clouds. The villagers gathered at a distance, afraid. Out stepped a man, tall, thin, wearing a long coat that looked worn by many journeys. His name was Dr. Elias. He smiled and raised his hands, showing he carried no weapon. I come in peace, he said. His voice echoed gently across the stone plains. The elders frowned. They told him to leave soon. Humans do not belong here. Your kind brings danger. Elias only nodded politely. I only wish to study, to learn. Nothing more. But Leora's eyes stayed fixed on him. Something about the way he moved, the way he spoke. It pulled her closer. The next day, while the village worked, she saw Elias near the river. He was sitting on the ground, sketching something in a small book. Curiosity pulled her forward step by step. Why are you here? She asked softly. He looked up, surprised to see a child. Then he smiled warmly. I want to understand your world. Every world is full of wonders. Leora tilted her head. You see things we cannot, don't you? Elias studied her face. Yes, I see. Colors. The word made her heart race. Colors. The forbidden dream. That evening, something happened that Leora would never forget. The villagers had gathered around a fire to share food. Elias was there too, though he sat apart. Leora could not stop glancing at him. He looked different from everyone else. His eyes held a strange light as if he carried secrets inside. When he turned his head and smiled at her across the fire, something flickered. Leora gasped. For a heartbeat, the world changed. She saw a spark, a faint shimmer like the sky had whispered a secret only to her. His smile carried a glow she had never seen before. It was not gray. It was not silver. It was something new, something alive. Her chest tightened. She blinked hard. The shimmer vanished and the world fell back into dull gray. Had she imagined it? That night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling of her small stone home. Her heart would not calm down. I saw it, she whispered. I know I saw it. The memory of that glow burned in her mind. She had always dreamed of colors, but this time it felt real enough to break the laws of her people. If I tell anyone, they will call me cursed, she thought. If I tell the elders, they will lock me away. But deep inside, curiosity grew stronger than fear. She needed to see it again. She needed to know if it was true. The next morning, she sneaked out of the village. Her feet carried her toward the hills where Elias had set up his camp. She felt the wind against her skin, whispering warnings. She remembered her mother's voice. Colors bring pain. But her own voice whispered back, what if they bring something else? When she reached the humans' camp, Elias looked up from his strange devices. His eyes lit up with gentle surprise. You came, he said. Leora's voice shook as she spoke the question that had haunted her all night. When you smiled yesterday, what was that light? What did I see? Elias studied her carefully. Then very slowly he reached into his bag. He pulled out a small object, clear like ice, shaped like a triangle. He lifted it toward the sky. Do you want to see the truth? he asked softly. Leora's hands trembled as she nodded. Elias raised the glass to the sunlight. The beam broke into many fragments, scattering across the ground. Leora gasped as her eyes widened. Red, blue, green. For the first time in her life, she saw colors. Her heart raced. Her breath caught. The world around her was no longer dead and gray. It was alive. It was shining. She wanted to cry, to laugh, to scream all at once, but then a sharp voice broke the air. Leora! An elder stood at the top of the hill, eyes blazing with anger. He pointed at Elias and the prism in his hand. What have you done, child? The ground seemed to shake. The secret was no longer safe. The elder's shout echoed across the gray hills. Leora froze, the colors still dancing before her eyes. Her heart pounded like thunder. She wanted to hold on to the glowing world, but fear rushed in and tried to crush it. The elder's staff struck the ground. Step away from that human! Elias lowered the prism quickly, but not before the last fragments of light faded. He looked calm, though his eyes stayed watchful. She only wished to see, he said softly. The elder's voice cut through the air like a blade. To see what was never meant to be seen. You know our law. Colors bring ruin. Do you wish to curse us all, child? Leora trembled. Her lips wanted to speak, to defend herself, but no sound came out. The elder grabbed her wrist. Come, you will answer before the council. That night, the whole village gathered in the stone hall. Torches burned with pale fire along the walls. The council of elders sat high on the platform, their faces carved with age and judgment. Leora stood in the center, small and shaking. Elias was kept outside, watched by guards. The head elder leaned forward. Leora, daughter of Myra, do you admit what you have done? Her throat felt dry. I saw something. Only for a moment. Something dangerous, the elder snapped. We locked away such visions long ago. Your people gave up colors to end our wars. Do you want to bring war back? The hall murmured with fearful voices. Leora lowered her eyes. She wanted to scream that colors were not evil, that they were beautiful, but the memory of her mother's warnings filled her heart. If she spoke, they would call her cursed. The council gave its ruling. Elias must leave the planet within 2 days, and Leora was forbidden to speak of what she saw. If she disobeyed, she would be cast out forever. The judgment fell heavy on her like chains. Later that night, Leora slipped away from her home. Her steps carried her back to the hills, where Elias packed his things in silence. He looked up when he saw her, his face lit by the soft glow of his lamp. You shouldn't be here, he said. I had to come, she whispered. They say you must leave. He gave a sad smile. It seems I've caused you trouble. Leora shook her head. No, you showed me the truth. I saw it, I saw colors, and I don't want to lose them. Her words hung in the cold night air. Elias studied her carefully, then reached into his coat. He pulled out a small silver device no larger than her hand. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its side. What is that? She asked, eyes wide. It is forbidden here, he said, but it can unlock what your people hid long ago. It can give you the gift of color. Forever. Leora's breath caught. The thought of seeing colors again made her heart race, but fear pressed close behind. If they find out, she whispered. They will call it dangerous, Elias said, but sometimes danger is only fear wearing a mask. You must choose, Leora. Do you want to live in gray forever or take the risk of seeing the truth? His voice was calm, but she could hear the weight in it. This was no game. This was a choice that could change her whole life. Her hands trembled. She thought of the shimmer in his smile, the rainbow in the prism. She thought of the way her heart had leaped when she saw them. Slowly, she nodded. Show me. Elias pressed the device to her temple. A soft hum filled the air. Leora gasped as light spread through her mind, like rivers of fire and water rushing at once. Her eyes burned, her chest ached, and she almost cried out. But then, suddenly, the pain melted into wonder. When she opened her eyes, the night sky above her was no longer just black and gray. The stars shimmered in endless blue, gold, and silver. The moons glowed with soft colors she had no name for. The ground beneath her feet shimmered with green shades, and Elias's coat shone in deep, rich tones. Tears filled her eyes. It's alive, she whispered. Elias nodded. This is the gift your people locked away. Now it is yours again. But before she could breathe in the beauty, sharp voices pierced the night. Stop. Guards rushed over the ridge, spears raised. The torches in their hands flickered, and for the first time Leora saw them burn with orange fire. Seize them, one guard shouted. Leora's heart slammed in her chest. She had barely tasted the gift when danger fell upon her. Elias stood in front of her, his body tense. Run, he whispered, but she could not move. She could not tear her eyes away from the new world. Even in the face of fear, she could not let go of the colors. The guards closed in. Spears pointed. The council's judgment would be swift and cruel. The forbidden gift had been claimed, and now the price would come. The guards dragged Leora through the night, their spears glowing faintly in the orange firelight. Her arms ached. But what hurt more was the thought of leaving the colors behind. Every step away from Elias felt like a step back into the old gray world. Behind her, Elias was bound with chains of silver steel. His face was calm, but his eyes flickered with quiet anger. He did not fight the guards, but he watched them carefully as if searching for the right moment. The village was waiting. The council had called everyone to the stone hall again, even though it was the middle of the night. Shadows danced across the walls and the torches hissed in the cold air. The head elder rose from his seat. His robes flowed like liquid smoke. His voice was deep and it carried the weight of centuries. Leora, daughter of Myra, you have broken our oldest law. You have tasted the forbidden gift. The crowd gasped. Mothers held their children closer. The word forbidden echoed through the chamber like a curse. The elder pointed at Elias. And you, human, you brought this poison back to us. You have done what no outsider is allowed. You have awakened colors. Leora's chest tightened. Colors are not poison, she shouted suddenly. Her voice trembled, but it carried across the hall. They are beautiful. They make the world alive. A murmur spread among the crowd. Some looked curious, but most turned their faces away in fear. The elder slammed his staff. Silence. Do you know why your ancestors gave up colors? Because they destroyed us. Once our people saw the world as humans do. Bright, divided, burning with envy. Some wanted more of one color. Some claimed another as their own. War spread like fire. Whole cities burned. Our kind nearly ended. He paused, his voice heavy with old memory. So we made a choice. We cut colors from our eyes. We erased them from our blood. Shadows brought peace. Shadows brought balance. That is the law of shadows. And you, child, would break it. Leora's knees felt weak. She wanted to believe colors could only bring joy. But the way the elder spoke made her doubt. Could colors truly bring war? Her mother's face in the crowd was pale with fear. Please, my child, she whispered. Say nothing more. Save yourself. But Elias spoke before Leora could answer. His voice was calm, but sharp like a blade hidden in velvet. Peace that comes from blindness is not peace. It is only fear. Fear has ruled you for too long. The guard struck him across the face, but he did not fall. The elder's eyes burned. Human, you will be banished, and the girl will face judgment. Her memory will be cleansed. She will forget colors forever. The words fell like ice. Leora's heart pounded. Forget? Forget the rainbow sky, the burning orange flames, the deep green hills. Forget the gift that had filled her heart with wonder. No, she cried. You cannot take it from me. I saw beauty, I saw truth. It did not bring hate, it brought hope. The hall erupted in shouts. Some called her cursed, others said she was brave. The elders raised their hands for silence. The head elder's voice was final. Enough. Take them both. The sentence will be carried out at dawn. As the guards dragged her away, Leora's eyes locked with Elias's. Don't give up, he whispered through the noise. The truth cannot be erased forever. His words burned inside her, even as the shadows closed around them. They were thrown into separate stone cells beneath the hall. The air was damp and the walls were cold. Leora sat in the dark, hugging her knees, tears running down her face. Is this the end? She thought. Was I foolish to believe? Hours passed, though time felt strange in the silence. Then, she noticed something. On her hands, faint lines glowed. Not bright, but soft, red. The color pulsed gently, like blood singing beneath her skin. She gasped. Even in the dark, even without Elias's device, the gift was still inside her. Her heart leapt. They cannot take it away. It's part of me now. Footsteps echoed outside. A guard passed by carrying a torch. For the first time, Leora noticed the flame's wild orange light reflected in his armor. She wondered if he saw it too, or if he only saw gray. She whispered through the bars toward Elias's cell. Are you awake? His voice came back steady and calm. Always. I still see them, she whispered. Even here. The colors, they won't go away. There was a pause, then his voice grew firmer. Then they have already lost. The gift cannot be undone, but you must be strong. Tomorrow they will try to erase your memory. You must fight, but how? She asked. His reply was quiet, almost like a secret carried on the wind. Because I have a plan. Her breath caught. A plan? Hope flickered in her chest like a tiny flame. She pressed her hands against the bars, feeling the pulse of red light under her skin. Above them, the torches burned through the night. Shadows danced against the walls, heavy and watchful. But deep in the prison, something new stirred, a spark that shadows could not smother. The law of shadows had ruled for centuries. But now, for the first time, that law was trembling. The cell was cold, but Leora's mind burned with restless fire. She sat against the stone wall, staring at her hands. The soft red glow was still there, pulsing faintly beneath her skin. The elders would never believe her if she told them. But it was real. The gift was alive inside her. Across the hall, behind iron bars, Elias sat chained. His head rested against the wall, his eyes half closed. To anyone passing, he looked tired, beaten, harmless. But Leora had begun to notice something different in him. His silence wasn't weakness. It was waiting. At last, when the guard's footsteps faded into the distance, Elias opened his eyes. His voice came low, steady. Leora. She leaned closer to the bars. Yes? You asked how you will fight tomorrow. The answer is you won't fight alone. Her heart jumped. What do you mean? Elias looked down at the chain wrapped around his wrist. Tiny sparks of blue light flickered there, almost too faint to notice. I came prepared. Humans are not welcome on your world. But I knew the council would never let me leave freely. So I brought something hidden. He closed his eyes for a moment and the sparks grew brighter. Slowly, the chain around his wrist loosened as if the metal itself had changed its shape. It slid off silently, Leora gasped.
How did you...
Elias raised a finger to his lips. Shh, I will explain later. Right now we have little time. At dawn they will try to erase your memory. Once they succeed, the colors will vanish forever. Not just for you, but for everyone who might follow. She gripped the bars. Then what must I do? Elias crawled closer to the edge of his cell, his voice urgent but calm. Listen carefully. I have a device hidden in the hills, buried before I entered your village. It was too dangerous to bring inside. That device can project colors into the minds of anyone nearby. Not just you. Not just me, everyone. Leora's eyes widened. Everyone in the council chamber? Yes, he nodded firmly. If they see colors for themselves, they will no longer believe the old fear. They will know the truth. But I need your help to reach it. Her chest tightened. The guards will never let us escape. Elias's mouth curved into the faintest smile. That is why we need shadows. Before she could ask what he meant, footsteps echoed again. Guards approached. Elias quickly slipped the chain back around his wrist, letting it tighten once more. By the time the guards appeared, he looked as weak as before. They did not notice the faint red glow still pulsing in Leora's hands. The night dragged on. Every minute felt like an hour. Leora fought to keep her eyes open, afraid that if she closed them, she would wake to find the gift gone. But just before dawn, when the halls grew quiet again, Elias whispered across the darkness. Leora, do you trust me? Her heart skipped. Yes. Then when the moment comes, don't be afraid. The shadows are your ally. Colors live in the light, but they are born from darkness. Remember that. She didn't fully understand his words, but she held them tight. At sunrise, the guards came. Heavy hands pulled her out of the cell. Elias was dragged behind her. Together, they were led back to the stone hall. The chamber was full again. The council sat high above, their faces grim. The villagers filled the shadows below, whispering in fear and curiosity. The head elder raised his staff. The girl will be cleansed. The human will be banished, and the law of shadows will remain unbroken. The crowd cheered the words, though not everyone's voice carried strength. Some were uncertain. Some looked uneasy. Leora's chest tightened. She wanted to scream, to beg them to look at the sky, the fire, the grass, but she knew words would not change them. They needed to see. She turned her eyes to Elias. He met her gaze, and a silent message passed between them. Now. Suddenly, the torches flickered. The shadows in the hall grew long, stretching across the floor like living rivers. Gasps filled the chamber as the darkness seemed to move. From the corner of his chains, Elias pressed his fingers against the stone floor. A faint blue glow spread outward, crawling like veins of light beneath the hall. The elders stood in alarm. "What sorcery is this?" Elias's voice rang clear, stronger than before. "Not sorcery. Truth." The chains around his wrists cracked and fell. The torches burned brighter, and for the first time in centuries, their flames blazed in full color. Orange, yellow, gold. The villagers gasped. Some shielded their eyes, but others leaned closer, hungry to see more. Leora felt her heart race. The red glow in her hands flared stronger, feeding on the light. For a moment she thought she might burst. The elder slammed his staff. "Stop this madness. Guards, seize them!" But it was too late. Elias rose to his full height, and with a single movement of his hand, the blue light in the floor pulsed outward. The stone walls shimmered, and the whole chamber filled with color. The banners hanging above the council turned crimson and blue. The villagers' clothing lit up in shades they had never known. The sky outside the open roof burst into dawn's true hues: rose, gold, violet. For the first time in generations, the people saw the world as it truly was. The hall fell into silence. The villagers stared, some weeping, some laughing. Children clutched their mothers, shouting about the strange beauty they had never known. Leora's tears blurred her vision, but she did not care. She turned to Elias, her voice trembling with awe. "You did it. They see it. They all see it?" But Elias's face was grave. "Not all will rejoice. Some will cling to fear. Some will fight harder than ever to keep the shadows." And even as he spoke, the head elder raised his staff high, his face burning with fury. "Then let the shadows strike once more," he roared. The chamber shook with voices. Some cried out in joy, pointing to the banners, the torches, the sunrise spilling its colors through the open roof. Others screamed in fear, clutching their children as if the colors were fire that would burn them. The council stood frozen, their faces pale under the flood of new light. For centuries they had lived in shadows. Now their eyes were drowning in truth. The head elder slammed his staff, his voice booming above the chaos. "Enough!" The colors trembled, as if his word alone could chase them away. Guards surrounded Elias and Leora, their spears aimed at their hearts. "This human has broken our oldest law," the elder declared. "He has infected our people with forbidden sight. And this child—" He pointed at Leora, his voice dripping with rage. "Chose to betray her kind. They will both be judged." Elias stood tall, though chains still bound his wrists. His eyes swept across the crowd, searching for any sign of hope. He saw confusion, wonder, and fear tangled together. That was always the danger of truth. It never came gently. "Judge us if you must," Elias said, his voice calm but sharp. "But the truth is already inside them. They cannot unsee what they have seen." The elder's face darkened. "Then we will not only judge you, we will erase you," the crowd gasped. Memory erasure. It was the worst punishment of all. To live but lose the self. To forget everything that made you alive. Leora's knees trembled. She stepped forward, her voice breaking but strong enough to echo. "You call it erasure, but it is death with breathing lungs. You want to kill the truth because you are afraid. Afraid of colors. Afraid of change." The villagers murmured again. Some lowered their eyes. Others looked at her with something close to admiration. The head elder snarled. "Silence, child. Do you know what colors bring? Envy, division, hate. That is why our ancestors cut them from us." "But I have seen them," Leora cried. Tears streamed down her cheeks, glowing with the light of the flames. "And I felt no hate. I felt wonder. I felt life. You say shadows bring peace, but peace without beauty is not life, it is prison." Her words cut through the crowd like sparks in dry wood. For the first time, villagers began to argue openly. "She speaks truth," one cried. "No, she is cursed," shouted another. "Colors are beautiful. Colors will destroy us." The hall roared with voices until the elder slammed his staff again. The noise silenced at once, though the fear still burned in their eyes. "Enough," the elder growled. "The council will decide. The trial begins." Leora and Elias were forced onto their knees in the center of the chamber. The council formed a circle around them, their robes shifting like waves of shadow. One elder, older than the rest, leaned forward. His voice shook with age. "Human, why did you bring this gift to us, knowing our law?" Elias met his eyes. "Because laws can be wrong. Because fear is not peace. And because the universe is full of beauty, your people have been denied for too long. Another elder hissed. Beauty burns worlds. We chose survival. Elias did not flinch. Survival without wonder is not living. You may erase me, but you cannot erase the truth your people now carry in their hearts. Then the council turned to Leora. The head elder's eyes were cold. Child of shadows, why did you break trust with your kind? Why did you seek the forbidden gift? Leora's voice shook, but she lifted her chin. Because I was tired of gray. Because I wanted to know if there was more, and now that I have seen it, I cannot go back. Even if you take my memory, even if you chain me forever, some part of me will still burn with colors. Her words rippled through the crowd again. The council withdrew to whisper among themselves. The chamber buzzed with uneasy silence. Leora's heart pounded in her chest. Every second felt like an eternity. She glanced at Elias. He gave her the smallest nod as if to say, "Stand tall. No matter what happens, stand tall." Finally, the head elder raised his staff. The council had decided. The human is guilty of corrupting our kind. He will be executed at dawn. Gasps spread through the chamber. Elias did not flinch, though his chains rattled. The elder's gaze turned to Leora. His voice thundered, "And the child will face cleansing. Her memory will be erased. She will forget the human, the colors, and all that has happened here. She will return to the gray as if nothing ever changed." Leora's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body froze. Erased? Forget Elias? Forget the sunrise, the fire, the green hills? Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice rose like fire. "You can erase my memory, but you cannot erase what is already inside me. Colors will return to our people. If not through me, then through another. You cannot stop them forever." The crowd stirred again. The words had struck them, though fear still held their tongues. The head elder lifted his staff high, ready to end the trial. But before he could strike the floor, Elias leaned close to Leora and whispered so only she could hear, "Don't be afraid. I have one last idea." The hall was heavy with silence after the judgment. Torches hissed, their flames flickering in orange and gold. The villagers stood in uneasy clusters, torn between fear and wonder. Some still hid their faces, unwilling to look at the forbidden light. Others stared openly, desperate to see more before it was gone. Leora's heart beat like a drum. The council had spoken. Elias would die and she would lose everything. Her memories, her gift, her colors. But beside her, Elias did not tremble. His chains rattled softly as he leaned closer. "Remember what I told you," he whispered. "Shadows are not your enemy. They are waiting to be filled." She turned to him, eyes wet with tears. "What can we do?" "They've already decided." A faint smile touched his lips. "Then let us give them no choice." The head elder raised his staff again. "At dawn, judgment will be carried out. Guards, remove them." But before the words were finished, a low hum filled the chamber. The sound vibrated through the stone floor, through the air, through every heart in the room. Gasps rose from the villagers. The torches flared and the walls seemed to shimmer. Elias lifted his bound hands and light spilled between his fingers. His chains cracked and fell away as though they had never been. The council shouted in alarm. Guards rushed forward, but the ground itself glowed with veins of blue light that stopped them in their tracks. Elias's voice rang out, strong and unyielding. "You fear colors because you once misused them, but hiding truth does not erase it. It only starves your spirit. If you will not listen to words, then you will see with your own eyes." From the folds of his coat, Elias pulled a small silver device, the one he had hidden before his capture. Its surface pulsed with shifting colors as if it carried a fragment of the universe itself. He pressed it to the floor. Instantly, a wave of light rippled outward. The hall exploded into color. The gray robes of the council became a storm of crimson, gold, and deep violet. The villagers' skin glowed in shades they had never dreamed. The banners high above turned to rivers of blue and green. Even the air itself seemed alive, filled with threads of light that moved like living breath. Children gasped and laughed, pointing at their hands, their clothes, their mothers' faces. Old men wept, falling to their knees. Women clutched one another as if afraid their hearts would burst. For the first time in generations, the people saw the truth of their world. But not everyone rejoiced. The head elder staggered back, his face twisting in rage. "This is chaos," he shouted. "This is the poison that burned our ancestors. Do not look at it. Close your eyes. Some obeyed, trembling with fear. But others could not. Their eyes drank the colors as if they had been starving for them. One young villager raised his voice. It is not poison. It is beautiful. Another cried, why did they hide this from us? The hall shook with voices divided between awe and terror. Leora stood in the middle of it all, her eyes wide with wonder. She felt the red glow in her hands burn brighter, as if the light in the chamber was feeding her from the inside. For the first time, she didn't feel cursed. She felt chosen. She turned to the crowd, her voice clear. Do you see? Colors are not our enemy. They are part of us. They do not bring only war, they bring life, they bring hope. Her words carried like sparks across dry wood. The villagers stirred, their hearts torn between the old law and the new truth glowing in their eyes. The council gathered together, their faces pale with fear. The head elder raised his staff high, trying to drown the light with shadow. No, he roared. We will not fall again. This human has deceived you. He brings division. He brings death. But even as he shouted, another elder hesitated. His wrinkled hands trembled as he stared at the colors on his own skin. For the first time, doubt cracked his voice. What if we were wrong? The head elder spun on him. Silence. But the words had already been spoken. The seed of doubt had been planted. Elias's voice rose above the noise. This is your choice, not mine. Not the council's. Yours. Will you live forever in shadows, or will you embrace the truth that was always yours to begin with? The villagers turned toward one another. Some shouted, some wept, some reached for the light as if it might slip away. The hall was no longer united. Half stood with the council, clinging to fear. Half reached for Leora and Elias, desperate for freedom. The choice hung in the air like a blade about to fall. Leora felt her chest tighten. She looked at Elias, her voice a whisper. What if they choose fear? His eyes were steady, calm as the sea. Then we will still have planted a seed, and seeds grow even in the darkest soil. The head elder's fury blazed. He slammed his staff and the torches flared violently. Then we will burn the seed before it grows. Guards, kill the human. The villagers gasped. Spears lifted. The chamber filled with chaos. And Leora, heart racing, realized the moment had come. The choice was no longer just for the people. It was hers. Would she step into fear or into color? The hall was chaos. Guards rushed forward, their spears gleaming. Some villagers pushed against them, shouting for the human to be spared. Others cried out in fear, begging the council to destroy him before colors spread further. The council chamber, once silent and cold, now burned with fire and voices. Colors danced everywhere, on the banners, on the stone floor, even on the trembling faces of the people. At the center of it all stood Leora. Her small figure was caught between two storms, fear and wonder. Her heart pounded, her breath came fast, but her hands glowed with steady red light. She felt as if the gift itself was calling her to act. Elias stood chained no longer, his blue light shimmering around him like a shield. His eyes met hers, calm, strong, a silent message. This is your moment. The head elder lifted his staff high, his voice roaring above the noise. Enough. The law of shadows will not break. The human dies now. Guards lunged toward Elias. No. Leora's voice rang across the hall, louder than she thought possible. Her hands flared, the red glow bursting into a wave of light that filled the chamber. The guards froze, their spears trembling in their grip. Every eye turned to her, a child standing alone, glowing with forbidden fire. She lifted her chin, tears streaking her cheeks. You say colors bring war, but I say they bring choice. We can choose hate, yes, but we can also choose hope. Why must fear always decide for us? The villagers murmured. Her words cut through them like wind through smoke. One guard lowered his spear. She is right, he whispered. Another followed, stepping back from Elias. Soon half the guards had lowered their weapons, their eyes wide with the wonder burning in their veins. The head elder's face twisted with fury. Fools, do you not remember the past? Do you wish to destroy us all again? His voice was strong, but something in it cracked. Doubt, fear. The villagers saw it. An old woman stepped forward from the crowd. Her hands shook, but her voice was clear. I remember the stories, but I have lived in gray all my life, and still we have anger, still we have envy. Shadows did not erase them. Perhaps colors are not the curse. Perhaps it is us who chose wrongly. Her words struck like lightning. The hall erupted again, voices clashing like waves. Elias raised his hand and the device at his feet pulsed once more. Light swept upward, spilling through the open roof into the dawn sky. The gray morning broke apart, revealing a sunrise of gold, violet, and scarlet. The villagers gasped, falling silent as the true sky opened above them. It was not destruction. It was beauty. Endless, untamed beauty. Elias's voice carried over the stillness. This is your world as it was meant to be. Not broken, not hidden, whole. The choice is yours. Will you return to chains or will you step into dawn? The council hesitated. Their power was slipping. Fear still clung to them, but even they could not tear their eyes away from the blazing sky. Finally, the oldest elder, the one who had doubted earlier, rose slowly to his feet. His eyes shimmered with tears. Perhaps we were wrong. Gasps filled the chamber. The head elder turned on him, furious. Traitor! But the old man raised his trembling hand. No, we are the traitors. We betrayed ourselves when we chose shadows over truth. More elders began to shift uneasily. Some still glared in defiance, but others lowered their heads in shame. The council was cracking. Leora stepped forward, standing at the center of the light. Her voice was small, but it carried like a song. Let us not erase. Let us not kill. Let us begin again. Not in shadow. Not in fear, but in color. The silence that followed was deep as the ocean. Then slowly, one by one, the villagers began to kneel. Not to the council, not to Elias, but to the dawn sky above them. The law of shadows was breaking. At last, the head elder dropped his staff. His face was pale, his strength gone. If you choose this path, he said bitterly, then you choose ruin. Do not say you were not warned. He turned and walked away, his robe trailing like a fading shadow. The council was divided, but the people had spoken. For the first time in generations, they chose light. Elias stood beside Leora, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. You were brave, he said softly. You gave them more than I ever could. She looked up at him, her eyes shining with tears and colors. You gave me the gift. I only shared it, he smiled faintly. The universe is brighter when we share it together. Outside, the village stirred. Children ran through the streets, laughing at the colors of flowers, of water, of the sky. Old men sat in silence, staring at the world they thought they knew, now reborn. Leora watched it all with wonder. For the first time, she felt truly alive, truly free. But as the people celebrated, a shadow lingered. High on the cliffs above the village, a robed figure stood watching. His eyes burned with anger, and his hands clutched a hidden blade of light. The law of shadows had fallen, but not everyone would forgive.